NBA Friday night on ESPN starts deep in the heart of Texas. San Antonio, the home of the NBA champion San Antonio Spurs, the benchmark in the NBA. Everybody compares themselves to the Spurs. Tonight, the Cavaliers see how they match up. Good evening, Jim Durham with Bill Walton. Glad to have you with us. This San Antonio team, the defending NBA champs, got better in the offseason. Most people predict they'll win it again, but Greg Popovich says, well, let's hold on here. There are some obstacles in our way.
Yes, like 8 months before the NBA Finals even start. But what the San Antonio Spurs did cost them nothing. They had the best team a year ago. Now they're better, as you say, Jim, with the addition of Michael Finley, who looks tremendous, Nick Van Exel, who brings an incredible basketball IQ, and an unheard of in San Antonio recent history individual capability, and then fabulous Fabricio Alberto that comes from the Argentinian national basketball team. You combine those three new additions with Tim Duncan, the best player in basketball. You got Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. This is all in place for a spectacular season. This building, where they only lost 3 games a year ago, they're ready to rock. They're healthy and primed for a great season.
Well, it's been Death Valley for the Cavaliers deep in the heart of Texas. They haven't won here 15 straight times, but they come in tonight with LeBron James red hot. And the former Spurs assistant, now the head coach of the Cavs, Mike Brown, he likes what he sees in his club.
And for the first time in now LeBron's 3rd year, Jim, you've got a team around LeBron. The additions in the offseason, LeBron, who's worked so hard, improved physical fitness, obviously the skill development, the maturation, ready to go. But when you've got Larry Hughes, Danielle Marshall, a re-signed Zydrunas Ilgauskas, you've got Damon Jones coming in. Now you're starting to put the pieces together. If they can come off their big opening night victory against the Oklahoma City Hornets, continue the hot shooting from the perimeter, and LeBron James continues his brilliant dynamic leadership, they've got a real chance to break that 15-year winless drought here.
There you see a look at the Cavaliers lineup. Larry Hughes in the backcourt. Bruce Bowen, Rasho Nesterovic, and Tim Duncan up front for San Antonio. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili at the guard line for the Spurs, who won here on opening night, their ring ceremony game. Greg Popovich, one of 5 coaches with 3 or more NBA titles. That's a pretty good list he's in there with.
And if he gets one more, as he's heavily favored to do this year, then he will join Pat Riley with 4.
It's the Cavs controlling the opening tap. Veteran point guard Eric Snow, guarded by Tony Parker.
Speed and quickness, I think, advantage in the backcourt to San Antonio.
Nesterovic out on the perimeter defending Ilgauskas. And with 8 to shoot, LeBron James with a nice kiss off the glass.
Well, attacking Bruce Bowen right away. Bowen, never a statistical leader in the defensive category, but an outstanding, determined, disciplined defender.
Nesterovic with a counter for the Spurs.
Nesterovic healthy after a disappointing run through the playoffs last year where he was supplanted by Nazr Muhammad, now back in the starting lineup.
Larry Hughes guarded by Manu Ginobili. The Cavaliers opening the first of a 3-game road trip tonight. San Antonio hits the road for 5 after this one. 3 to shoot. Ilgauskas doesn't appear to be aware, and so Snow on a bailout heave. And it's a shot clock violation. But Mike Brown, what a positive guy he is.
Out of the mold of Greg Popovich. Now, remember, Mike Brown got his start from people like Wes Unseld, Bernie Bickerstaff, who spent a couple years up there with Rick Carlisle. Obviously, the years spent here with Greg Popovich. Upbeat, positive, constructive. Nice pass by Tony Parker.
And the ball finally dug out as it was knocked loose by the Cavaliers.
Cavaliers going to have to do a better job of defending that pick and roll. The Spurs have been beautiful with it both possessions.
LeBron James getting turned away at the rim. And San Antonio with Ginobili handling. Tony Parker had 26 opening night in their win over Denver. Nice play for Nesterovic.
Mike Brown cannot be happy with the defense on that pick and roll. He wants Ilgauskas, he wants his big guys to step out on the floor and double team, but that requires defensive rotation from the weak side. They're not getting it right now.
Ilgauskas draws a crowd. James to Snow, and on around the horn they go to Hughes as Duncan claims the rebound.
I'm seeing a quicker hitting offensive scheme for Cleveland than we've seen in LeBron's first 2 years.
There's a little more Christmas here in the early going, also by the Cavaliers offensively.
Find a pivot foot, Tony Parker, please.
8 on the shot clock for Ginobili. Sends it out to Bowen for 3.
Bruce Bowen, now 34 years old. A few years ago, the #1 3-point shooter in the NBA. I can remember, I'm old enough to remember when Bruce Bowen couldn't make a single shot out there.
And now he only struggles at the foul line.
But that's all mental.
But he doesn't struggle at this end. Bowen, a top-notch defender, getting the assignment on LeBron James. And San Antonio out on the run. Nice. And Bowen for the layup.
What beautiful ball movement. Mike Brown needs a timeout desperately. This Spur team looks razor sharp.
They have hit Cleveland with 9 straight to counter the LeBron James field goal to open the game.
All starts with the defense and the rebound. The quick outlet. And then when Bowen gets it, he gives it right up to Tony Parker. Delivers it back. The easy layup. What are the Cavaliers going to do about it?
Welcome back to San Antonio. I'm Jim Durham with Bill Walton. Here's a look at the first week, premiere week in the NBA. Ron Artest, it's as if he didn't leave.
And don't forget the contributions of Jermaine O'Neal back to the MVP level.
TJ Ford coming back from that serious injury and having an outstanding first 2 games. Phil Jackson back as the head coach of the Lakers. They've split their first 2. And a big injury to the Heat last night. Shaquille O'Neal now out 2 to 4 weeks with a sprained ankle.
And important for the other contenders in the Eastern Conference like Detroit, Indiana, New Jersey, this Cleveland team to make their move now and try to put some separation and distance from the Miami Heat.
And isn't the same as always? All the storylines around the league is an offensive foul called on Cleveland. All the storylines around the league. Nothing mentioned about San Antonio. They had that impressive win in here opening night. They're up 9-2 already. They were so good opening night against Denver. In the fourth quarter, they hit 13 out of 16, and Tim Duncan didn't shoot the ball.
Tim Duncan didn't take a single shot in the final period. He only scored 1 point out from the free throw line, and they outscored the Denver Nuggets, who played very well that night, 33-19.
So 11 straight points for the Spurs. LeBron James with all 4 for Cleveland so far.
But on the other end, LeBron James got to do a better job of shutting down Bruce Bowen, who only had 4 points against Denver in opening night. Bruce Bowen already has 5 points in the first 3 minutes here. Good hands defensively, Eric Snow.
And then it was Duncan who got back there to deflect it back. So it didn't change possession. They've got 5 to shoot. And the rebound collected by LeBron James. That's the first miss for the Spurs tonight. They opened hitting their first 5.
I'm impressed by the big men for San Antonio and how they're playing defense so far away from the basket.
Ilgauskas against Nesterovic and a foul on Rasho. Rasho with his first.
With LeBron James trying to get to work here on Bruce Bowen. Bowen's going to try to force him to the baseline there. You can't play any better defense than that. Bowen's such a proud defender. Greg Popovich was telling us that if he even thought of assigning anyone else to LeBron James, that Bruce Bowen would have totally lost it and got right back in Popovich's face.
Well, that brings up the question, though. If Bowen gets in foul trouble, where do they go next defensively where LeBron James is concerned?
Well, you would have Michael Finley, Beno Udrih, who's moved down in the rotation because of the addition of Nick Van Exel. And I think Manu Ginobili could do a quality job. And if things really get desperate, I would like to see Robert Horry playing, although Greg Popovich doesn't really think that Horry can move his feet well enough on the perimeter against LeBron. I respectfully disagree.
You're allowed to do that. Parker, Ginobili against Hughes. And on the rebound, a loose ball foul on Manu Ginobili.
Ginobili playing with a very sore, bruised thigh. Suffered about 3 days before the home opener. Manu Ginobili, all the events going on down in Argentina today, and both good and bad. Obviously resting on his soul, as with Roberto as well.
the fabulous one, Fabricio Oberto. Nice move by Larry Hughes. Hughes with his first two. And the Cavs are chipping away at that lead, which was 9 at one time. 5 straight points for Cleveland.
Crisp ball movement for the Spurs. The shot's starting to rim out right now.
After they opened, hitting their first 5.
Well, Tony Parker's got 3 assists early on here.
LeBron James draws the foul as he attacks the rim. Say fans catch video highlights on every game with NBA TV broadband only on NBA.com. Log on to NBA.com for more details.
LeBron James had 25 points on opening night as a rookie in 2003. 28 points opening night last season and 31 on opening night this year. Became only the 3rd player in the last 40 years to score 25 plus points in the season opener in each of the first 3 years. Only the other 2 guys, Grant Hill and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Pretty darn good company for LeBron James.
You just saw Robert Horry come on for the Spurs. That's the 2nd foul on Nesterovic. Rasho is out. LeBron James drops them both. 6 points for LeBron James, and the Cavs within 2 on a 7-0 run.
The fluidity and continuity of this Spur offense, just beautiful.
Ginobili. Parker finding Horry. It's early in the season, and Robert Horry's still looking for that shooting eye. But I guarantee you better next spring.
You better guard him in the 4th quarter of the championship series.
Larry Hughes fires with 8 on the shot clock, and the rebound. Gooden. Drew Gooden powers up, and the Cavs have run off 9 straight to pull even.
Will the Cavs be a physical enough team with Drew Gooden and Ilgauskas out there? The addition of Daniel Marshall should certainly help.
Tim Duncan with his first 2 as San Antonio regains the lead.
I love the fact that Tim Duncan has grown the hair out. That to me
Think
just
he's going to go for the full deal?
Well, just send him some pictures of Artis Gilmore and Dr. J, Darnell Hillman from the old days. But as Dylan always said, you better grow it out, otherwise it stays on the inside and scrambles up the brainwaves.
That's what he said, huh? And as Duncan was holding in the post, off the ball, a foul.
It was great to hear Mike Brown talk about Tim Duncan and his post-passing ability and how it's evolved over the years. So when Tim first got in the NBA, coming out of Wake Forest, really didn't handle the double teams that well. But now it's automatic, the way he's able to find the guys, the spacing. Mike Brown was saying that Tim could literally close his eyes and he knows where everybody is going to be.
And that's what he envisions for his club eventually. Tony Parker off the floater, so Tony Parker has put his autograph on the game. And the Spurs go up by 2. Damon Jones in now, number 19 for the Cavaliers. Eric Snow is out, and Danielle Marshall is also in there for Cleveland. Drew Gooden left open, and he makes them pay.
Tim Duncan will always rotate defensively, so if you can get by your defender and then make Tim Duncan step to you, his man, that time Drew Gooden, is always going to be wide open.
And the Spurs have Brett Barry in the game. He swings to Horry. Here's Duncan attacking and following it up. Good interior defense by the Cavs.
I like the freshness to Duncan's game right now. He's not waiting when he gets that ball in the low post.
LeBron James shoots on Horry at the rim, and it's cleared by Duncan.
Duncan is outletting magnificently.
Tony Parker sends it out to Bowen. About 4.5 left in the first here at the SBC Center. And Parker, now you see him, now you don't. 6 points for Tony Parker.
Always best to be the quickest guy on the face of the earth.
Damon Jones just inside of the three-point stripe.
Damon Jones was a questionable performer tonight after the game the other night up in Cleveland against Oklahoma City and the Hornets, where they blew him out. He had an allergic reaction and hasn't practiced since then, but looks pretty sharp early on.
Shot clock down to 10 for the Spurs. Ori open. Danielle Marshall rebounding to Jones as the Cavs have a chance to regain the lead.
Well, we've seen so many times over the years, Jim, the Spurs come out so hot. Seems so easy for them, and they stop playing.
Yeah, but then you've got guys like Van Exel and Finley who can come in and energize your offense.
Who they haven't had in years past. Larry Hughes.
Putting Cleveland up by 2. The Cavs led 2-0, and now they're back to a 2-point advantage after trailing at one time 11-2. And a timeout taken by Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. So it was a quick start for the Spurs, but now the Cavs withstood the early surge, and they're back on top. Back in San Antonio with the Cavaliers now on top 19-17. The matchup to watch tonight, Bill Walton, will be Bruce Bowen matched up with LeBron James.
Much like we saw Wednesday night, Kobe Bryant versus Greg Buckner, it's Bruce Bowen who now has the unenviable job of forcing LeBron James into having a nightmare of a game, but with the help defense and all the big guys, much like the Jordan rules, where everybody coming to help at every time. Tim Duncan turning LeBron into the fall away. LeBron James able to make the most difficult of shots, and Cleveland, after a slow start, is now running their offense extremely well. They've hit 7 of their last 9 shots with only 1 turnover in the last 7.5 minutes.
And the Spurs now making some changes. Michael Finley in the game for the first time, and the fabulous Fabricio Oberto as Ori delivers.
Unlike so many other teams, Jim, these Spurs players, they just willingly give the ball up at any opportunity. They're not always looking for assists. They're not always looking for their own play.
James, nice drop off to Gooden. Ori the rebound.
Gooden needs to finish strong in the basket area. How long before Danielle Marshall takes over that spot permanently?
Marshall making the block on the attempt by Parker. The Cavs on the run, and it's LeBron James hammering it home.
That little peck dribble to gain his balance almost allowed Robert Ori to get right back as Tim Duncan sits on the sideline watching the over-the-top pass here. Beautiful court sense and vision in the backcourt.
That's 8 points for LeBron James. And with 2:46 left, there you see the line on LeBron here in the early going. Had 31 points in the season opener for the Cavs.
6 of 7 3-point shooting. I mean, that long-range work he did in the summer, along with his bicycle riding to improve his conditioning, certainly paying off early.
Ori with a touch off to Oberto, and the Cavaliers very active defensively. Larry Hughes going up over Ori. Tony Parker in transition to Oberto.
Fabulous Fabricio Oberto, the 5th player in NBA history to make his NBA debut for a defending champion after not being drafted.
Score the basket and a blocking foul on Ori. Drew Gooden with a chance at a 3-point play.
This is a completely different Cleveland team that we saw fall apart at the end of last season after they fired Paul Silas.
And you know, even though they did, they still finished over 500, which was amazing. 42-40.
Good. Watch your
Right
face
with that one. Pavlovich in the game right now for Cleveland. Alexander, Sasha. 13 to shoot. Damon Jones whips the pass outside to James, and as LeBron tried to make the move, a foul on Finley. First foul on Finley. The Spurs are over the limit, so LeBron James back to the free throw line, has already made 2 free throw attempts.
It was wonderful to hear Mike Brown talk about the leadership of LeBron James in practice, off the court for this squad, the example he's setting in terms of hard work, discipline, organization, commitment.
NBA Premier Week continues following our game at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. The T-Wolves and the Supersonics from Seattle. It's the NBA on ESPN.
Remember, it was a year ago the Sonics lost their home. Well, they lost their opener to Seattle, then won 13 straight games or something like
but
that.
not only lost, but looked bad doing
Well,
it.
they got blown out by 30 points to the Clippers a year ago.
Parker. Tony Parker with the layup.
And I'm interested to see how Kevin Garnett is going to respond this year. One of the few times the reigning MVP did not make the playoffs. That's a tough shot for Damian Jones.
Finley with the rebound. And Finley guarded by James at this end. Michael Finley had 16 points in his Spurs debut in the opener. Lost the handle there. Damon Jones a steal. And that's a three for Damon Jones.
Now, I'm all for guys pulling the trigger. But when you have LeBron James on your team, that guy should touch the ball literally every time up the court.
You're talking about a 43% three-point shooter last year.
Damon Jones.
Damon Jones, right. Parker again.
But I like threes that come after the ball goes to the star player. We have an offensive scheme and purpose, dedication.
42 seconds left in the quarter. The Cleveland Cavaliers doing a good job here in the first. Gooden underneath, and in the corkscrew move, he walked with the ball. So San Antonio, if they use the clock correctly, could end up with a 2-for-1 deal here to close out. But
get Tony Parker on the run. I'm not sure why Damon Jones is playing 25 feet off it.
He looks to shoot early. And the rebound cleared by Marshall. And now there's still about 4 difference.
Fabulous Fabricio. He looks good out there. This is my first time seeing him play, even though he's 30 years old.
How did Greg Popovich describe him? He's the ugliest good player I've ever seen. Isn't that what he said?
I think he was talking about my game. Nice passing.
Damon Jones, another three. And the rebound comes off to Finley. There's time. Oh, Finley off the back of the rim at the buzzer.
That's why we watch.
So the San Antonio Spurs got out of the gate in a hurry. They scored 11 of the first 13, went up 11-2. But the Cleveland Cavaliers came back and pulled even and eventually took the lead and led by as many as 5. Thanks a lot. The Cleveland Cavaliers with this 3-point lead after 1. And Bill, the way they withstood that early charge by San Antonio, that's important for this.
The poise, the confidence, but it really turned around for him was that Daniel Marshall. He entered the game, and since he got in there, Cleveland outscored San Antonio by 5 points.
Nick Van Exel in the game for the Spurs, and Barry knocks out a 3. Brent Barry hitting the scorebook for the first time.
An unbelievable roster Greg Popovich has at his disposal. He's got Nick Van Exel, who's always been a lead player. You got Brent Barry, tremendous. Michael Finley, who's always been a top-tier player.
Van Exel doing a good job defensively on Damon Jones. Ilgauskas somehow eluded Nesterovic.
30 years old now for Big Z. Still playing with those 9 screws in his feet, 6 in his left, 3 in his right.
Finley. LeBron James attacking.
Nice pass.
Good pass to Marshall, and a foul called. Danielle gets to the free throw line. Roberto called for the foul.
The injuries for Ilgauskas. First 6 seasons, misses 287 games. The last 3, though, only 6. Missed all of 2 full seasons.
And with the added offensive firepower and the added 3-point shooting ability of the Cavaliers, Ilgauskas could have his best year offensively. I mean, they could open the floor up for him.
Well, he's only 30 years old, and the question coming in was whether it was the right decision to re-sign Zydrunas Ilgauskas, whether he was the type of player that can be complementary at the championship level to LeBron James.
Cavaliers are now 7 of 9 from the free throw line as they go up by 4. Cleveland is led by as many as 5. And we get a foul call. There's the general manager of the Cavs, Danny Ferry, the former Spur.
He received
both as a player and in their front office.
And he received his championship ring before the game tonight from last season. But it was last night that Greg Popovich took all the Cleveland Cavalier players out to dinner.
Alberto on the miss and Nesterovic on the follow.
But it was front office personnel for Cleveland, who used to be with San Antonio. Right. Danny Ferry, Mike Brown, Hank Egan, the 67-year-old assistant coach, Lance Blanks, with the Beakas downtown here in San Antonio. What a spot.
Now the Spurs with a chance to tie. Ginobili ready to come back. Van Exel. Barry with plenty of time finds Van Exel.
Cleveland looks better defensively than I thought they would be this early on.
And that's the thing that Mike Brown was talking about before the game, where he felt they needed to make the most improvement. He's got to give them high marks so far for this effort tonight. Donyell Marshall on a 3. And Barry with the rebound.
Marshall is more than capable of making that shot. Not really sure you want your power forward taking threes in transition.
Shot clock down to 11. Nesterovic. Rasho has 8.
This is the best I've seen Rasho play in maybe 10 months. Since probably the first of the year 2005.
He's 4 out of 5 from the field. Nesterovic opening night scored just 2. Marshall gets tripped on the move. And I believe Barry will be hit with the call, and that is the call. Brent Barry called for the personal. You talked about the former Spurs getting their rings before the game. They almost had to have their second ring ceremony here.
Well, no kisses tonight after Brent Barry.
That's Mike Wilkes, who's now with Cleveland. And LeBron James says, let me have a look at that. Well, that's what they look like, huh?
And the lovely and talented Amanda out there for the Cleveland Cavaliers, making sure that everything is kept proper and orderly.
Larry Hughes back on, controlling for the Cavs with 8 to shoot. Hughes working around the pick by Marshall. And traveling called on Larry Hughes. 5 turnovers for Cleveland. Greg Popovich and the Spurs with a chance to regain the lead. We played almost 3 minutes here in the second quarter. Another capacity crowd. And here's a travel on Van Exel before he got rid of the pass. LeBron James taking care of a little manicure business over there. Getting rid of those hangnails.
Well, I'm all for the hygiene and keeping them short because you get scratched up so much, but you might want to think about doing that well before the game as opposed to during the game.
Ilgauskas against Nesterovic. And he recovers and scores. Big Z with 7 points working. Cleveland back in front. Van Exel for 3. Eric Snow at the point for Cleveland.
Greg Popovich, he really wanted his team to exploit the inexperience and youthful defense of this emerging Cleveland squad. I don't think the patience right there is enough for Greg Popovich's satisfaction.
Damon Jones on a miss for 3. And again, the Spurs looking to tie. Ginobili guarded by Snow. The defender falls. Things open up nicely for Finley. And on the rebound, it's Ilgauskas. Tuesday night, Finley was hitting those shots. It was another travel call.
We've had 4 traveling violations in the last 90 seconds here. That must be an NBA record.
Just inside of 8 minutes, and a timeout comes with 7:59 left. We got a 2-point game working at the SBC Center in San Antonio.
John Saunders in the studio with a Taco Bell update, beginning with Larry Brown making his home debut. The Knicks hosting the Wizards have to find a way to stop Gilbert Arenas, who hit his first 5 shots, including a tough one like that. Meanwhile, the Nets are on the road in Canada, in Toronto. Richard Jefferson, strong move and a drive. Raptors had 9 points in the second quarter. They're getting blown out, Jim.
All right, John, a reminder, upcoming games in the NBA tomorrow on NBA TV at 8 o'clock Eastern. The Sixers at Indiana. Minnesota playing at the Clippers tomorrow night. And then the doubleheader on TNT next Thursday. The Rockets are at Miami to start out. Then Detroit at Phoenix at 10:30 Eastern. Also heard on ESPN Radio.
I'm looking for the Detroit Pistons to have an outstanding season. A little bit more determined to take care of business early on and not just wait for the fourth quarter and the last 5 minutes of the seventh game to try to win the championship.
Count the basket by Ginobili and a foul. Manu Ginobili with his first points tonight.
Hard to comprehend the unbelievable trip that Manu Ginobili has been on the last 5 years, with the EuroLeague championship in 2001 for Bologna, 2002 almost won the World Championship with one controversial call away. They beat the U.S. in that series.
Ginobili missing the first free throw attempt of the Spurs.
In 2003, Manu was coming off the bench when the Spurs won the championship.
You know, there are a lot of guys in the NBA now involved in the international play that play really year-round, and they do it for more than one season. And Greg Popovich talks about it. He said that's one of the reasons why Duncan came back in such great shape, was because he basically took the summer off and healed his body, let his body heal.
As did Manu Ginobili.
And but Tony Parker had to play for France in their qualifying tournament.
And then next year is a big international year, the World Championships in Japan. Nice passing
from Hughes to Ilgauskas. We have, as you take a look at all the international players,
Parker's team qualified for the World Champions. Manu's team has the reigning World Champions. They'll be there, as will Fabricio. Rasho, his team will be there. Beno, Sean Marks, New Zealand. I'm not sure if they're going to be in New Zealand. The competition, Australia normally there in the Oceanic division.
A big height advantage here. Ginobili and Ilgauskas, and the Cavs control the tip. How about this heave?
Ill-advised
by LeBron, but he was up against the shot clock. They were down to 1 when he launched out of the corner.
And also up against Bruce Bowen.
Yep. Van Exel.
Nice pass.
Now Bowen at the other end against LeBron, and it's blocked by Donyell Marshall. Nice finish by LeBron James.
Donyell Marshall has played outstanding basketball tonight. What an offseason pickup. New owner Dan Gilbert for the Cleveland Cavaliers committing in excess of $150 million to all the new talent trying to surround LeBron.
Tim Duncan draws the double team, goes back to Ginobili. Cavaliers looking to extend on their 2-point lead. And Ilgauskas operates on to Starovich. Snow with a nice delivery to Larry Hughes, and Hughes knocks it out. Larry Hughes with 6.
That's why they call him smooth.
This 4-point lead for Cleveland. Their biggest so far has been 5. San Antonio led by as many as 9 very early. 9 on the shot clock for Duncan. Van Exel, a straightaway 3.
The ball movement out of the post and then back in, or the quick hitting delivery. A sign of extreme confidence for this team, and true trust and belief in every man on this roster.
Bowen getting out and showing the baseline for LeBron, but Donyell Marshall sticks the 3. And we're seeing some of the varied weapons of the Cavaliers on display here.
Hughes, Donyell Marshall, offensive foul, Duncan.
And Tim Duncan has his first.
Cleveland looks extremely impressive tonight.
Very confident. Very confident. And a timeout taken with 5:06 left in the half as Duncan continues his conversation. We'll be back. It's the Cavs by 4. Welcome back to San Antonio with Bill Walton. I'm Jim Durham. The Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James with a 4-point lead on the San Antonio Spurs. It's been a long playoff drought. Look at that youngster. I know exactly how he feels.
This is your 4th game in a row this week. You are Premier Week, Jim Durham.
There it is, 97-98 season. The Cavs were in the playoffs and lost to the Pacers in a 5-game series, 3-1, or a best of 5. Mike Fratello was the head coach. Ilgauskas, the only remaining member of that team, and Mike Brown, he wants to get this club pointed in that direction. And based on their performance so far tonight, this could be huge in building some confidence.
Well, if they don't make the playoffs, this will be one of the most complete failures and breakdowns maybe in NBA history. Offensive foul on Larry Hughes.
2 fouls on Hughes.
They could have easily called a traveling violation there, because Ginobili is going down. He's flopping really before the contact's even made.
San Antonio.
It's hard to imagine Larry Hughes knocking down Monty Ginobili.
Here's Duncan. Duncan fairly quiet tonight. That's just his 2nd field goal. He's 2 for 6.
But the defense of Daniel Marshall, who's done an outstanding job on the defensive end, and then on the offensive end, he's got 5 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 blocks tonight for Daniel Marshall.
Ilgauskas battling for the offensive rebound. And wait a minute, somebody had their hand in there, up in the net. And it's offensive basket interference.
The ball's hanging, bouncing. Whose hand is that hit the net? I mean, if it's Duncan's hand,
then the basket counts.
Obviously, the referees had a much better angle than I did.
Just about 4 minutes for the half. Duncan against Ilgauskas.
I love the post re-entry pass.
From Parker with 5 to shoot. It's Bowen. LeBron James the rebound, and the Cavaliers are off to the races.
Carrying the ball.
He carried the ball on the dribble. It's a Cleveland turnover.
Easy play to call. He's acting like the road runner here.
Right there it was.
If you don't call that, how would you ever play defense against some of these guys?
That's one of the points of emphasis for the officials to look for in call this year. And it is good, and you know why it's good? Because in international play, they always call it. Well, they call it when it isn't.
6 turnovers in the quarter for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Ginobili, Nesterovic, Manu for 3. Manu Ginobili with just his 2nd field goal, and it puts the Spurs up by 1.
You know, Cleveland played their best ball when Daniel Marshall was in the game. Now he's gone to the bench. We'll have to see what the Cavaliers do to be able to sustain the momentum that Daniel Marshall was able to build for them.
Larry Hughes takes it all the way in. Duncan the rebound out to Ginobili. And now it's the Spurs in transition. Manu hits again. 7 points for Ginobili.
Warming up.
7 straight for the Spurs and a 3-point lead.
Manu's not been able to practice much this last week because of that badly bruised right quadricep.
LeBron missing for 3. Nesterovic the rebound. This is Duncan. And a foul call. That will get Duncan to the line. Nope, apparently not. Non-shooting foul.
Non-shooting?
I believe that was the indication.
Well, they'll sort it out during this timeout.
The foul is on LeBron James, his first. San Antonio, after trailing by 5, now up by 3.
Welcome to our studio. Coming up on the Toyota Halftime Show, I have the latest on Shaquille O'Neal's injury, plus Larry Brown makes his debut back in New York. First half?
Well, what you're starting to see toward the end of the half, San Antonio starting to get those stops. That's what they're known for. At some point, they put their clamps on you. Cleveland has to remain patient.
You talk about stops. That's what great teams do. They win the end of the quarters. San Antonio doing a great job. They're squeezing on the defensive end, making Cleveland shoot jump shots.
Just another game, more evidence of San Antonio's superiority and the fact that Cleveland has a long way to go, despite having.
And it's still a 2-point game now.
Yeah.
We will have all of that and more at halftime. Jim, out to you.
Great points for the San Antonio Spurs as they have moved in front by 3. 2:46 for the half. And if you match up the 2 stars of each club, LeBron James with a huge edge over Tim Duncan.
LeBron has been more aggressive and assertive offensively, looking to set a tempo to try to inspire his teammates. But really what's happened for San Antonio in the last few minutes is Ginobili's come alive. It is a true test as to how many points this guy can get in a hurry, because in the first 16 minutes of the game, Manu Ginobili was scoreless. The last 5 minutes, 7 points to help give his Spurs their first lead since the first quarter.
Robert Horry back in for San Antonio, gives it up to Parker. And underneath to Duncan, and on the pass in, a foul call. It's on Zydrunas Ilgauskas. That's 3 team fouls. And Big Z picking up his first personal.
One of the reasons the Spurs are such a great team is the way they move the ball to guys who aren't really open. They have beautifully creative passers on this squad here.
Ginobili at the rim, turned away by Gooden. And it's been a bit of a drought for the Cavaliers, but with 2.5 left in the half, they put up a good fight so far tonight.
And it's very difficult to get to the free throw line against the San Antonio Spurs. Their defense is outstanding to begin with, and they just don't really foul other teams.
Ilgauskas on the missed tip. San Antonio with it. It's over a 3-minute drought for Cleveland as Parker attacks and scores. Tony Parker has 12.
Parker was just so dynamic in the opening quarter. All those points, all those assists. I mean, he was on a pace for what, 40 points and 20 assists the way he played the first quarter. But then he went and sat down for a long time.
LeBron James draws the crowd. That opens it up for Larry Hughes. Larry Hughes ends the drought. 8 points for Hughes. Danielle Marshall has been a huge factor for the Cavs.
You just keep giving ground, and Larry Hughes, a first-team all-defensive player a year ago, has no chance even giving up the strong side to Tony Parker, who promises to be right-handed throughout this game.
And there he is again. Tony Parker with 14. He scored 14 in the 4th quarter of game 1 on Tuesday night here. So
against Denver, 7 for 7 in the 4th quarter.
In this half, he's got 14, and that's a walk on LeBron James. They pulled the chair out from under him. 1:11 left. Cleveland with 7 turnovers in the quarter.
You mentioned the difficulty in getting to the free throw line against San Antonio. Last year, the Spurs were ranked 5th in fewest fouls committed over the course of the season. And they're in every game they play in is as big a game as there is any night in the entire NBA.
Parker finding Bowen. Damon Jones has picked him up, 9 to shoot. Horry. And tipped in by Duncan.
I haven't seen a teardropper from Robert Horry too often in his career, with 6 championships already to his credit.
I don't think I've ever seen one. Gooden against Horry.
Wild shot.
They're not getting good shots. San Antonio really screwing it down defensively. Manu's pass deflected. He almost came up with it. And then a foul on Horry to stop the thrust up the floor for Cleveland.
Smart foul by Horry. Yep. You've got momentum. You've built a good 7-point lead. You're down here in the closing seconds of the 2nd quarter. Don't let LeBron get in transition. And look at Manu just took off his thigh sleeve. Greg Popovich's not going to take any chances whatsoever.
So he brings Barry in to replace him. The final seconds of the half. Eric Snow.
It's his own defense here, almost looks like. Everybody just backing off.
With better than 4 difference between the shot clock and the game clock. 5 to shoot. An open look for Gooden. Drew Gooden has 8.
fill in the slot behind the guy that slides over to set the screen.
Plenty of time for the Spurs to have the final say. Oh, and a reload move. Parker nearly scored. And the first half has come to an end. Each team has enjoyed leads in this first half, but it's San Antonio walking off in front.
And Tony Parker sitting on the ground saying, what is a foul? How do I get to the free throw line?
Toyota halftime show coming up next. Shaq's injury update. Larry Brown's debut with the Knicks in the Garden.
And the Spurs close out the second quarter on a massive 13-2 run to take some control here. Put some seeds of doubt, confusion, and hesitation in the minds of the Cavaliers as they walk off for the halftime instructions.
LeBron James got Cleveland off tonight to the early lead, then 11 straight by San Antonio, but 9 straight by Cleveland. It's been a dogfight since.
Welcome to the Toyota Halftime Show.
John Saunders, Tim Legler, Greg Anthony, Stephen A. Smith here, Toyota Halftime Show. A lot of promise for the Miami Heat to start this season just because they revamped the entire team. It had an entirely different look. And remember, this was a team that almost made it to the championship last year. But now they have to play without the big man in the middle for at least the next 2 to 4 weeks. Shaquille O'Neal playing against Indiana. You watch him come down on Ron Artest's foot and sprain the ankle. He'll miss the next 2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks, and obviously, short term, obviously that hurts them because everything goes through Shaq in the low post. I'm a little bit more concerned about the fact that anytime you're dealing with an ankle with a guy this size and at his age, sometimes that can be a lingering injury. The key's going to be, does he come back? Does he come back 100%? How quickly would that be?
You take a look at this schedule, and this is who they have in the next couple of weeks. You look down the bottom and you say, okay, they could probably come out of that one at least at 4-3.
Well, really, that's not as relevant. You know what? This hurts and helps in some respects. It helps them because the guys they brought in are much better suited to make plays and still have this team be very competitive. It hurts them from the standpoint that they don't have the opportunity to make the adjustment in terms of how they're going to play the game alongside Shaquille O'Neal. They have to wait another month, potentially, before they can start really making that push in terms of their chemistry.
Well, I definitely think it's a situation where if you're Antoine Walker, you're Jason Williams, you've got to go out there and help Dwayne Wade put some points on the board. But in the process of doing so, you have to revert back to old habits that were not going to work or be conducive to playing alongside Shaquille O'Neal. Once Shaquille O'Neal comes back after you spent weeks playing your old brand of basketball in light of the fact that Shaquille O'Neal was out, how are you going to make that adjustment? Again, what Greg alluded to before, it's a prolonged process. Shaquille O'Neal being injured hinders that process, and ultimately it can end up costing them home court advantage, which could end up costing them that Eastern Conference crown. That's how critical this injury is.
And something you talked about before was Shaquille O'Neal advancing along in age and size, and a guy who's over 300 pounds, and the ankle is going to be a problem throughout the entire season, probably.
You're talking about 330, 340, 350 pounds, depending who you ask. That's a lot of weight on an ankle joint. Tim Duncan battled all year last year, not nearly the same size as Shaquille O'Neal. I know he'll wait till it's better to come back, but it's going to be another 4 weeks potentially that he's out. Maybe lose a little bit of conditioning, comes back in. It just kind of delays the process with this team.
I think the biggest issue, though, is simply the fact that they don't have an opportunity to gel as a team. The margin of error is so small when you look at the elites in that Eastern Conference, Indiana and Detroit. Miami is not a dominant team over those two, nor do they intimidate them. They need everything to be working if they want to have a chance to come out.
True indeed, but they are veterans. It's not a bunch of rookies on the squad. These are guys that have been in the league for quite a long time. Even though it does take something away, there still should be huge expectations for this team. They're veterans. They should know how to handle it once he comes back.
And D. Wade is healthy right now, which makes a huge difference for Miami as they wait for Shaq to come back. Meanwhile, Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs with the lead at halftime. It's just 5, though, over the Cavs, 50-45.
The Toyota Halftime Show is brought to you by Toyota. Choose any direction as long as it's forward. Toyota, moving forward. This is the Toyota Halftime Show.
For your New York Knicks, the head coach is Larry Brown.
Larry Brown back in his hometown, but he had to watch as Antoine Jameson misses. Gilbert Arenas, who had his first 5 shots. Wizards led by 13. Jamal Crawford to Trevor Ariza. He gets a nice dunk there, and then Jameson to Chucky Atkins. Gets it back for the layup. Wizards lead 39-24. At that point, it's 54-47. The Grizzlies in Magic. Pau Gasol. Oh! Man, now, but
That's it. Just turn around and run back.
This is worse, though,
Grizzly
guys.
Adams.
Watch Kelvin Cato and Shane Battier. Boom. Elbow
That's going to leave a mark.
right to the head, and you better believe it's going to leave a mark. Oh, just the blood just pouring out. We will check on Shane Battier and make sure he's okay. Toyota moving forward. Right now, let's move forward and look to the second half. And in the first half, you were impressed with the point guard for San Antonio.
I really like the way Tony Parker's played, not only tonight, but in the first game as well. They're really good when he is super aggressive offensively, and that's what he has been in this game. He's attacking every single gap. It speaks volumes about Cleveland and defensively. They're not a very good help defensive team right now, but Tony Parker sees that. He's attacking. He's had a game and a half now. He has been really superb.
Yeah, and we talked about Cleveland defensively during the Kia shoot-around show, and that they had to do a better job of containing penetration. Points in the paint, 34-18 for the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan can dominate a game even when he doesn't dominate it statistically, because you have to be aware of him at all times. Makes it easier to penetrate when you're Parker.
They could keep a body in front of Tony Parker, however. I mean, he's just getting in the paint at will, and I know how lightning quick he is and everything like that. However, you've got to keep a body in front of this kid and make this kid beat you from the perimeter, because if he can penetrate through the seams and get in the hole, it's lights out. The game is over. You have no shot, and you know what, of beating the San Antonio Spurs when he can get to the lane that easily.
Especially against Larry Hughes, one of the best defensive players in the league a year ago. That's your Toyota moving forward feature, and here's a look at what we're talking about. Tony Parker just takes it to the goal and a 5-point lead.
Halftime show is brought to you
Rob.
by Toyota. Choose any direction.
And after a first half, it all adds up to this. San Antonio on top by 5. They have outshot the Cavaliers. Free throws go to Cleveland. Points in the paint, big to San Antonio. Turnovers 10-6. Cavaliers guilty of 4 more. Jim Durham with Bill Walton back with you in a first half, Bill, in which Tony Parker was terrific.
Well, the Spurs, keyed by Tony Parker. They got off to the big lead early, really put some seeds of doubt into the thought process of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then when Tony went out, Daniel Marshall comes in for Mike Brown and the Cavaliers. Then the Cavaliers take control. But as soon as Tony Parker comes back in, then it really swings back in the favor of the San Antonio Spurs. And the mismatch, while Duncan has played very well, LeBron James very well, the mismatch between Tony Parker and Eric Snow. Eric Snow has yet to score this season, and Tony Parker was just absolutely outstanding, leading the way for the world champions with 14 points.
LeBron James leading the way for Cleveland with 12. Cavaliers led by as many as 5 in the first half. San Antonio 9. The Spurs open with possession as the second half gets underway, and the Spurs leading the game by 5.
Nice passing, Duncan.
Cleveland covering defensively. Duncan with 10 on the shot clock. Now it's Bowen. And a foul puts Bowen on the line.
If Cleveland is going to come and double team Tim Duncan there, the closeouts can't be flybys. They have to be get in your face and make Bowen shoot that ball from the perimeter. You just can't casually trot out there, wave your hands like a matador, basically ushering Bowen down the lane, which he'll get to the free throw line.
Because he was fouled by LeBron James. 2 fouls on James. Bruce Bowen with 6 points in the contest.
Nobody in the game with 3 fouls. Larry Hughes has 2, along with LeBron, as you previously mentioned. Nat Rasho has 2 for San Antonio, as does Robert Horry. Horry playing very limited minutes at this point of the season.
Oh, the ball is out of bounds to the Spurs.
One thing I like about Mike Brown is that you never really get any sort of any sort of negativity out of him. It's always, okay, let's move on, let's move forward.
Ginobili sends it out to Bowen for three. Bruce Bowen opens with the first 4 points of the third quarter. And the Spurs have equaled their largest lead.
And while every Cavalier player mentions the attention to detail that Mike Brown has been noted for in his early stint here, it's the details that have failed Cleveland in trying to take control.
LeBron James trying to go up over that tough defense, unable to convert. Tony Parker around the pick by Duncan. Leaves it for Duncan.
Parker is just the first to every loose ball.
This is Ginobili. And LeBron James saves for the Cavs.
How long can Mike Brown go with Eric Snow, who's really doing nothing? I know he's a very solid defensive player and a stabilizing force, but when you're playing with LeBron James, you've got to put statistics on the board. And that's what Damon Jones did as a replacement for Eric Snow.
The foul at this end called on Ginobili. That's 2 fouls on Manu Ginobili. Eric Snow to trigger for the Cavs. We're just early in the third. Hughes missing the floater.
Hughes is down. Capitalize in transition if you're San Antonio.
Ginobili, now as the defense has recovered, goes to Duncan. Tim Duncan scoring on the move. Duncan has 8. And now the Spurs have their biggest lead.
I love the ball fake to initiate your own offense. Fake a pass. The defenders will react. That'll give you momentum and opportunity and spacing.
Ilgauskas operating against Nesterovic. The shot clock at 6. Larry Hughes sticks a 3.
Right in the face of Tony Parker. Did a magnificent job of closing out there. Just too tough a shot by Larry Hughes.
11 points in the game for Hughes. Parker. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Well, the fake pass to Nesterovic on the right, and everybody just frozen. And then that was John Stockton-like. Just get it going one way and then turn it back. Thing of beauty. All-time assist leader in the history of the NBA, John Stockton. I miss him.
9:25 left. Drew Gooden fell down, somehow got the pass away to LeBron James, and a foul on Bowen. That's Bruce Bowen picking up his first.
And that's
15 fouls.
Jim, that's a great sign for Greg Popovich's defensive scheme, is that you've got the guy guarding the focal point of Cleveland's
and he gets his
first foul in the third quarter. This is a team that truly believes in preparation and discipline.
Hughes with a pass out front, and it's an over and back call against Cleveland.
Big Z, he let that ball go. He was there. He needed to tip that ball, and when he hesitated, LeBron had already pulled back, and that was the result. Yet another turnover for Cleveland.
Say fans catch video highlights of every game free with NBA TV broadband only on NBA.com. Ginobili not able to find the range from 3.
The way they close out on LeBron, everybody in transition, so well aware of King James.
Oh. LeBron James with his first points of the second half. He's got 14 tonight.
LeBron James, who took and made at least 300 three-point shots. Nice over-the-top post speed by Tony Parker there. But LeBron worked endlessly on his three-point shooting this summer. It's paid off.
It was evident in game 1 on that 6 of 7. Tim Duncan, by the way, with 12 and 6 in the quarter. 8.5 for the third. Out of bounds, last touch by San Antonio. Remember this is against that tough San Antonio defense.
Well, Tim Duncan plays him as well as you can, steps up, forces him to step back behind the line, then over the top, no pressure on the ball. Tony Parker, he's on top of his game tonight.
7 assists for Tony Parker. 10 on the shot clock for Cleveland.
And like John Stockton, Tony Parker doesn't come to a dead stop with the ball. He plays on the run at all times.
They're down to 3 to shoot, and they don't seem to be aware. Good in the offensive rebound. Ginobili knocks it out of bounds. Good hustle by San Antonio. You know, we've seen it so often. San Antonio, Detroit, all the real good defensive teams, Bill. I mean, they can hit you with a 6 or 7 point drought where you just can't score the ball.
And we talk about unselfishness, JD. It has to be on both ends of the court. And the nice thing what we're seeing from the Spurs tonight is that they come with so many different players rotating onto LeBron James. White wouldn't really making his mark, grab an offensive rebound, 2 consecutive possessions.
And it's a 10-point advantage as the dive cut by Duncan gets broken up. Hughes.
You can get that shot whenever you want it.
Cleveland Cavaliers over the last 8 minutes of play going back into the first half have scored 9 points. So if you're going to hold somebody to roughly a point a minute, you're only going to give up 48. Got a chance to win that. This is Duncan.
Spurs are rolling right now.
14 for Duncan. San Antonio up a dozen. They have hit their last 4. Larry Hughes finding Ilgauskas.
But everything is a grind out, one-on-one play for Cleveland, as opposed to the ball movement, the fluidity, continuity for the Spurs.
Everything's against the shot clock. That with 3 to shoot, got it blocked, still missed the rim on the follow, and it's a shot clock violation.
The smother by Nesterovich, Duncan. Points allowed last season. Best in the NBA, the world champions. Blocks per game, best in the NBA. Opponent's field goal percentage, 3rd in the league. Led by that man right now, who's every year in the NBA has been first team All-NBA defense.
Cleveland has missed its last 6. San Antonio looking to take its largest lead as Ginobili spins in and gets it for him off the glass and draws the foul. A 14-point lead for the Spurs.
This is a great ball club here. Ginobili again capitalizing on the fact that the closeout capabilities of Cleveland are just not there right now. You know, one of the cutest things is we see Ginobili shoot this free throw here. There are 3 young children sitting right here courtside, and during the halftime, they were so excited. They were up on the sideline, waving to all their favorite players, and to see Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and LeBron James walk up to these 3 youngsters and wave to them, give them a high five, that makes a young man really, really happy.
A timeout comes with 6:39 left in the third. The Spurs, their biggest lead, 65-50. Game 1 of NBA Friday Coast to Coast.
ESPN's presentation of NBA Friday Coast to Coast. Brought to you by Chrysler. Inspiration comes standard.
John Saunders in the studio with your Chrysler Power Performance. How about Emeka Okafor? 24 points, 11 assists. But more importantly, 110-93. The Sixers are 0-3 for the first time in 4 years, Jim.
Yeah, Philadelphia and Maurice Cheeks having a tough time getting out of the gate. No question about that. 6:39 left in the third here, and the San Antonio Spurs have opened up a 15-point lead. And really, when you look at this one statistic, Bill Walton, it's not that close.
Well, the championship form is happening right now for the Spurs, because in the last 9+ minutes, they're on a 28-8 run, and the defense on LeBron James, who had 10 points in the first quarter alone, but only 4 points since. And no substitutions for Mike Brown. I'm very shocked that you don't have Damon Jones and Daniel Marshall coming into the lineup immediately.
Eric Snow unable to convert off penetration. Parker to Bowen off his hand, and Cleveland will have it back. Now we get the substitution for Cleveland. Here you see Daniel Marshall coming back into the game. Ilgauskas goes out. So it's a smaller unit, but a quicker one. And Snow is out with Damon Jones on.
Eric Snow has yet to score this season. And you're playing with LeBron James, so that means you're going to be open all the time. They're not even guarding you, and you're still not scoring. What's up with that?
And the Cavs are 0 for their last 8. Drew Gooden fouled in the act of shooting.
Looked like a lot of ball there, but with the wild arm swing, it just draws the referee's attention. And even though the referee was on the other side of the play, it's almost an automatic call when you see that much flailing of the arm by Rasho.
Nesterovic picking up the personal foul. 3 fouls on him. Nazr Mohammed about to make his first appearance of the night for the Spurs, coming in for Nesterovic. You know, there's the talk, of course, with San Antonio having won 3 championships, that this is a dynasty. Now, you were with a guy who knows a little bit about dynasty the other day, right?
Yesterday in Dallas, on behalf of the NBA and Southwest Airlines, a great new partnership, I was with Bill Russell, and they asked him about San Antonio's dynasty. Well, Bill Russell, who in 13 years won the championship 11 times, he said, well, maybe, but not quite yet.
Duncan sends it out to Ginobili. They get a look for Bowen, and he buries it. Bruce Bowen. That's 3 hits from 3 tonight for Bowen. And the Spurs continue to pull away as they're up by 16.
But I like what the Spurs have done in terms of creating an environment here where everybody in the league wants to be a part of this franchise. This is very similar to the way it was with the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s and the Bulls in the 90s.
Bowen the rebound on the miss by Marshall.
And so while Cleveland had to spend $150 million to get this team they have, it didn't cost San Antonio much more than a few pennies.
And why is that? Because guys wanted to come here.
Finley.
The guys had Van Exel. Guys have a chance to win. As Gooden made his move, there's a foul call. There's Michael Finley.
Now, granted, the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Cuban are still paying Michael Finley $52 million. But here's the only player on the current roster that was drafted in the top 10 is Tim Duncan. They got guys who were undrafted on this roster. You got Tony Parker, who was drafted at the end of the first round. But Robert Horry starting his 14th NBA season. Van Exel his 13th. Finley and Barry in their 11th. So you got experience with help and a lot of opportunities for years to come for these guys playing fewer minutes.
Yep. As Gooden gets the basket and draws the foul. Drew Gooden back to the free throw line, and Cleveland needed that one. Foul is on Duncan. You know, in the Tim Duncan era, the San Antonio Spurs have the best winning percentage in professional sports of the 4 major sports. It's pretty impressive, huh?
My favorite players in the game today are Tim Duncan and Stevie Nash. And it's going to be tougher this year for Steve Nash, even though they had the great win last night in Los Angeles, the 10-point blowout. But without Amari Stoudemire, things are a lot different.
Loose ball foul on the rebound. It's on Duncan. And that's 3 fouls on Duncan. And the Spurs are also over the limit, so they'll walk it down to the other end, where the Cavaliers getting to the free throw line tonight. Gooden is the only guy to get to the line here in the second half.
It's great to hear Greg Popovich talk about Tim Duncan and the growth and the maturation of this 3-time Finals MVP, 2-time regular season MVP, Tim Duncan. He and his glamorous wife, Amy, just had their first child 3 days after they won the championship in the 4th quarter of the 7th game this year.
Wednesday night, ESPN has an NBA doubleheader. First at 8 o'clock, it's Miami against the Pacers in Indiana. Their second matchup in just a few days. Then at 10:30, Sacramento versus Denver. Coverage starts at 7:30 with the Kia NBA shoot-around. The show with all the answers.
How will the Heat respond without Shaquille O'Neal out 2 to 4 weeks with that sprained ankle?
And how will he respond? Because historically, Bill, he doesn't heal quickly. Muhammad. Yep, and a foul.
Happy to see Nazir Muhammad get it going again with the tough personal issues that he had to deal with this year. Missed most of training camp. His wife having a child and complications there. Now both are healthy now, the wife and the child. But Coach Popovich telling us in our pregame meeting how Nazir had to continue to go back and forth from San Antonio and the Virgin Islands, where they had training camp, back up to Kentucky to be with the family.
And Muhammad really had his game going late last year and into the playoffs, and was a key, real key to their championship drive.
Well, he took over for Nesterovic, who was not a factor at all in the playoff run.
You see that right. 21% shooting for Cleveland. Larry Hughes turned away by Muhammad. And the Spurs looking to extend on the 14-point lead. What a move by Parker. That's 16 for Tony Parker. Damon Jones missing for three, and Bowen the rebound.
That's a very difficult shot. In transition, triple hitching on the way. Timeout.
In case you missed it the first time, here it is again.
How much fun is it to play like that? Just up and down, racing around. And with the addition of the new players, these guys are going to be fresher all year long because they're going to be playing fewer minutes. Statistics mean nothing to this team. The crossover, no rotation whatsoever. Comes right back to the other side. All happening. The Tony Parker Show.
Premier week in the NBA, and the premier team last year, the San Antonio Spurs, towering over the opposition to this point, up by 18. And in the previous timeout, the Spurs heeded the advice of their head coach, Greg Popovich.
Now we started the game out like this, just like we did the third quarter, and then we relaxed. All right? Same D, 5 guys on the board, 2 guys on the offensive board. Move that thing.
No relaxing whatsoever for Greg Popovich, whose Spurs have shot 67% this quarter, holding Cleveland to 19% in the third quarter, sparked by the magnificent performance of Tony Parker, who's got 18 points, 7 assists, and only 1 turnover.
Now it's LeBron James against Bowen. 10 to shoot. And offensive foul on LeBron James.
I love that.
3 fouls on James.
If they would only call that against every player in the NBA. The shoulder, the head to the midsection of the defender who's standing right there.
Tony Parker at the controls for the Spurs. Damon Jones on him, but not for long. And it's Brent Berry hitting a 3.
This is a clinic. And I go back to what Greg Popovich told us in our pregame meeting, how much Nick Van Exel has meant to Tony Parker's game. The IQ that Van Exel brings, the understanding of pace. LeBron James tries to answer back.
Gets to the free throw line. As he was fouled on that one. But, you know, what we talked about early on about this Spurs team is how they, you know, for a 6 or 7 minute stretch, at some point, they're going to pitch a shutout. Now, you're not going to score against them.
They put the clamps down, and then the difference this year, the additions that they made. I've always felt that the weakness of this Spurs team has been on the offensive end. They go to these long droughts where they tighten up and it gets really rough at the end of the game. But when you've got Finley, when you've got Nick Van Exel, I mean, who are scorers, they're gunners. These guys can come in and just fill it up on their own. Nick Van Exel, I had a teammate once on the Portland Trailblazers, which is the youngest team in the history of the NBA to ever win the championship. Herm Gilliam, Purdue University. And Jack Ramsey would just put Herm in when things looked totally lost. And Herm would come back and just get us back in the game all by himself. That's the kind of capability that Nick Van Exel has.
Cavaliers have 15 minutes to try and get back in this one. Parker. Robert Horry. Robert Horry with the left-handed maneuver.
That was a Pete Maravich, keep your feet on the ground while you're running full speed and just throw it up there.
You know, as he did in the finals last year, when he attacks, usually he extends out and throws it down at the end.
Well, we saw that left-handed throw down in the finals a year ago.
Damon Jones on a 3. Picked off by Parker.
Point guard shooting threes from the baseline. Not a good sign for your team's offensive balance.
Ori on a feed to Barry, who hands to Muhammad.
That would have been the play of the night if Nazir Muhammad had bobbled that ball.
Gooden stays with it.
Look at Robert Ori.
And
He's
Ori
everywhere. Sorry, Jim, I'm a little excited.
Robert Ori making the play for San Antonio. The Spurs up by 21.
How old is Robert Ori?
Parker. Marshall with the rebound. Well, he came in the league in '92, right? Ori, 3-point hit for Jones.
Cleveland makes one basket. Popovich immediately timeout. We got to stop this run right now.
Their lead is a mere 18 with 1:43 left. In the third quarter at a sold-out SBC Center, these fans liking what they see so far. Welcome back to San Antonio. There are the baseline bums. They sit well off the baseline these days, but they used to sit right on the baseline of the old Hemisphere Arena back in the ABA and NBA days. And what was it like playing in front of those guys?
It was fantastic. They were in your face. They know their basketball and love it immensely here in the River City. Beautiful passing.
Ori to Muhammad, misconnected.
And Robert's mad at himself for throwing that ball. But the execution, the baseline bums, I mean, you talk about loyal, fierce, competitive fans. Dave Cowens went into the stands after the fans one night. It got so intense.
Mike Wilkes in the game now for Cleveland, the former Spur who got his championship ring prior to the game tonight. Wilkes, number 29. Well, he's playing the point, and Damon Jones missing from long range.
With that timeout that Greg Popovich just called, Cleveland had hit only one field goal in their previous 7 minutes of action. Damon Jones hits that three, and Popovich immediately called a timeout.
Wanted to address the defensive breakdown. Nazir Muhammad called for the foul, trying to get it back from Wilkes. Nazir Muhammad has his first, and they'll walk it down at the other end, and Mike Wilkes will be on the line. Wilkes, in his 4th year in the league from Rice, was with the Spurs last year.
He got his ring before the game tonight. When you look at the Spur roster, there is not a weak spot on it. Every one of these guys can play, and they're under the salary cap. They always have the ability to add new guys if they so desire. R.C. Buford, Greg Popovich.
And Pop's approach is, I'm going to play the guys who are playing well. And he said, now, this isn't any different from what it's always been since I've been here. But the difference is, of course, they have so upgraded the talent on the bench.
And guys like Beno Udrih, who last year was a key contributor as the backup player to point guard Tony Parker.
Can't get in the game.
He hasn't played this season yet.
Here goes Parker. Robert Ori with a 3-ball.
Penetration and dish. Championship-style basketball. And they're doing this without Ginobili or Tim Duncan on the floor.
A 20-point lead for San Antonio. They are 8 for 13 from 3 as a team. 13 difference between the shot clock and the game clock. And the Ilgauskas unable to get the bounce as Ori takes it down.
The way they focused in on LeBron, they just play the percentages the Spurs defense. We're going to make other guys beat us. Every time LeBron tries to get to the hoop, big guys stepping in his path, bumping him. Nazir Muhammad that time.
Wilkes from well beyond midcourt as the third quarter has come to an end. Mike Brown and the Cavaliers have run into a buzzsaw tonight in the SBC Center. There you see that shooting in the quarter, less than 20% for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who now find themselves down by 20.
Is coming up when we are done with the Cavs and the Spurs. Wednesday night, that's Ray Allen as the T-Wolves go against the Sonics.
And here in San Antonio, the Spurs come on the court. There, the two quarters, the second quarter and the third quarter you saw there, where they held Cleveland to 17 points in each quarter and 36% shooting for the game to this point. Michael Finley back in for San Antonio. Brent Barry back in. Nick Van Exel also in the game for the Spurs.
And LeBron James should only say, these guys just keep coming at me in waves. Now, you got Michael Finley coming off the bench to play the defense. Offensive foul on Tim Duncan. I hope they continue to make these calls all season long.
You like that, don't you? That's 4 fouls. You never got away with a little push off the ball?
My favorite player of all time was Bill Russell. As we look at field goal percentage shooting by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first quarter, they were tremendous, 52%, but just going downhill. You mentioned it earlier, Jim. The Spurs able to tighten the screws, traveling violation. But I just think that you have to give the defender a chance. And the guys who are there first, you can't be pushed off the block. You can't just run them over. Use your head and shoulder as a battering ram. It's a game of movement, a game of going around the opponent.
Van Exel around and Ori screen. Now it's Barry looking for a pick from Duncan. Ori.
The ball fake to set up your own shot, the pass. These guys are putting on.
That's the 5th Spurs player to hit double figures already. And, you know, they've only got 84 points on the board. LeBron James with 18 points tonight.
Gee, it's only early in the fourth quarter.
Right.
San Antonio is not a high-scoring team because they play that grinded out.
But they're wonderfully balanced in their scoring in this game. Ori, a shovel pass to Duncan. The basket is good, and a foul. Tim Duncan with a chance at a three-point play.
I'm really a little surprised that Nick Van Exel is out there even. The beautiful ball movement once again. Robert Ori is flashing, dishing, filling the spaces. But you know, Van Exel coming to this point in his career after starting with the Lakers and then going up to Denver, then Dallas for some major years, Golden State a little bit, up to Portland before coming here. Here's a guy that's had 5 to 6 knee operations on that left knee. And he told us before the game that it's bone on bone in there. You want to just be able to milk as much as you can for as long as you can out of Nick Van Exel.
His 23-point lead is now the biggest for the Spurs, and Tim Duncan has 17 points tonight. He's hit his last 6 from the field. Finley sending James left, and he scores over Oberto, and a foul called on Fabricio.
Fabulous Fabricio. Welcome to the NBA. Seemed to be running away from the play here. As a big man, he does a nice job there, but the initiation of the contact by LeBron James. And we talked to Bruce Bowen, the defensive specialist and the man charged with guarding LeBron, about the difference between, say, guys like Kobe, Vince Carter, LeBron James. He said that what LeBron has to learn how to do is to be able to make that move where you bump him off the spot, bump the defender first before the defender has a chance to make that initial count. And all the great offensive scorers did that. Kareem, Oscar Robertson, Bird, Magic, of course, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, a master at that these days.
This is Ilgauskas over Duncan, and it's cleared by Van Exel. Van Exel guarded by Wilkes.
Popovich said that Fabricio Oberto was the best screening big man he's got on his entire team.
They're down to 6 to shoot with Van Exel taking it on the move against Wilkes, and Wilkes called for the foul.
But that's high praise for Fabricio Oberto when you've got Tim Duncan and Robert Ori on your squad.
Luke Jackson coming in for the first time for the Cavs.
Oberto from Las Buriles, Argentina, just outside of Cordoba, and the Pampas, they're right in the middle of the Pampas. 1 year in Greece, 6 years in the Spanish leagues.
You know, not only are the Spurs the best team, they have the best names.
Fabulous Fabricio.
Absolutely. Even their coaches PJ Colissimo. I mean, what great names on this team.
How about PJ's new commercial
There's PJ.
on TV? That is just fantastic.
9:24 for the fourth. Finley to Van Exel. It's Duncan. And on the rebound, a foul called on the fabulous Fabrizio. Oberto with his third. 2 team fouls on San Antonio. Coach Pop knocking it over with Monty McCutcheon.
So you would look at Popovich and you think his team was down 25.
They clamp down on the Cavs again and come up with a steal. Van Exel into the arms of Marshall.
What can Cleveland do to try to get back in this game?
Only not that. Damon Jones with a quick look at a three, and the ball is out of bounds to the Spurs.
You got LeBron James standing wide open on the far side, and you're jacking up that shot. Mike Brown, always positive.
Even though his club is down big, and we played a little over 3 minutes here in the fourth.
John Saunders with a Sirius satellite update. That's Mark Blunt with the ball for the Lakers from the free throw line. Nails it. With 0.8 of a second remaining, Boston goes up by 1. The celebration on, but Rip Hamilton sends everyone home unhappy as he nails a shot with 0.8 to go. 82-81 the final, 24 for Rip. Meanwhile, KG, Kevin Garnett, sitting, watching, waiting. T-Wolves and the Sonics coming up next. Jim.
All right, John, and here in San Antonio, 18,797 liking this one as the Spurs are up 21. This is a very competitive first half tonight, just a 5-point lead for San Antonio at halftime.
If you're a Spurs fan, what's not to like? Field goal percentage plus 18, Spurs over Cavs. Points in the paint plus 30 for the Spurs. Assists plus 13. Cleveland, they only made 6 baskets this entire half.
Here's Duncan working in the lane. He does that as well as anybody I've ever seen. He's strong enough that if the ball gets hit or he gets hit going up, he can still finish with it.
You would have to say that Tim Duncan is up there with Akeem Olajuwon and Kevin McHale. Beautiful penetration and dish with a lack of rotation defensively. Surprised Popovich didn't call a timeout right there.
I was about to say the same thing.
But that jump hook, invented by Billy the Hill McGill one day on a pickup basketball game in the streets of Los Angeles against Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell back in the 50s.
Good play there. Finley to Duncan.
But when you look at the different styles of play right now, assist to turnover ratio is a very good indicator there. Cleveland has 10 assists tonight and 15 turnovers. That's atrocious. San Antonio, on the other hand, the reigning world champs, 23 assists and only 11 turnovers, and playing at a faster, more reckless pace.
And here's the Cavs down against the shot clock. LeBron James unable to bail them out. Brent Barry controlling for the Spurs, who with a hoop can have their biggest lead of the night.
Tell you, this guy, Oberto, fabulous Fabrizio, he can play. Just the little things, offensive foul.
On Oberto setting the screen on the Barry cut by. Oberto's got 4 fouls.
But the beautiful thing, you got a big man rotation of Rasho Nesterovic, Nazi Muhammad, fabulous Fabrizio. You can foul and not really have it hurt you. Ilgauskas will go to the bench and Sasha Pavlovich will come in.
Mike Brown has cried uncle. He's got Alan Henderson in the game. LeBron James coming out, and he's doing this because they've got back-to-back at Memphis tomorrow night.
Memphis, one of the teams, along with Golden State, some sleepers in the Western Conference. A conference that is not as strong as it used to be as the East keeps loading up on talent. What closeout defense by Brent Barry.
Nick Van Exel up court for the Spurs. Oberto trying to hit Barry on the cut, knocked out of bounds by Cleveland. Coming up tomorrow, Philadelphia at Indiana on NBA TV. That's the first of a doubleheader. Minnesota at the Clippers to follow. Next Thursday on TNT, the Rockets and the Heat from Miami. Then Detroit at Phoenix, Game 2 at 10:30 Eastern. That one also heard on ESPN Radio.
LeBron sitting down right now. 20 points, 7 for 16, 4 assists. And it's important that the Cavaliers don't get frustrated. It's a young team just coming together. They're playing the world champions on top of their game.
Zendon Hamilton, number 31 in the game for the Cavs. Finley to Oberto.
This guy Oberto can play. Little surprised that Argentina won the world championship with guys like Naciones, Ginobili, and fabulous Fabricio.
Damon Jones missing on the 3. Oberto, like many of the international players who come in after playing in other pro leagues around the world, he's a 30-year-old rookie.
Undrafted.
Yep. And talking to Coach Pop before the game about, how he just now shows up, and he said, well, it's contracts. You got to wait for contracts to expire, and a lot of that happens around the world with the international players.
And the way they've changed the rules, it used to be able to buy out for any amount of money, but the new collective bargaining agreement limits that significantly to just a couple of $100,000. The maximum you can pay to the international club teams.
Luke Jackson on the miss.
But watch Fabricio away from the ball. Now, San Antonio's going to call a timeout, but in the remaining minutes here, the way he moves, the way he handles the high post swing.
It's a 25-point lead for the Spurs, and yes, that's the biggest of the night with 5:45 left.
ESPN's presentation of NBA Friday Coast to Coast. Brought to you by Sirius Satellite Radio. The best way to hear up to 40 games of the hottest NBA action each week is on Sirius.
Big men, the defenders, the finishers,
the design.
This is why we watch.
Way to go. Garnett. Oh, what a shot by Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Garnett and the T-Wolves up against Rashard Lewis in the Sonics. You see almost 21 points a game last year's NBA Friday. Coast to Coast continues up next.
And Greg Popovich and his Spurs looking very good tonight with this huge lead. 5:45 left. Beno Udrih comes in for the first time in the young season. Remember, we talked about it at the top of our telecast. Cleveland has lost 15 straight in San Antonio. Finley on the miss. And the Cavaliers in possession. When you look at the minutes distribution of the Spurs, not only in this game, but I'm going to venture to say throughout the season, the minutes are going to be so evenly distributed in a way that from a statistics standpoint, there are going to be some guys on this team that their statistics are going to be off by quite a bit simply because they're not getting the playing time they used to.
But when you're on a championship team, that's what it's all about.
Right.
Winning the game and being in a situation where you can keep your stars' minutes down. Tim Duncan only playing 28 minutes tonight. Tony Parker 29. Ginobili 22. That is going to pay huge dividends down the stretch.
And the Spurs are also looking at a back-to-back situation. They go to Dallas tomorrow night to open a 5-game road trip.
Well, that's going to be a real game. Dallas is a good ball club.
That foul is on Oberto.
Although Dallas is going to need to get more out of Eric Dampier than they got in Game 2 up at Utah. And after that brilliant double overtime victory at Phoenix, Eric Dampier goes up the next night, gets 1 point.
This is Luke Jackson on the free throw line. Nick Van Exel has come on for the Spurs. There's a look at that 5-game road trip. The Mavericks, the Bulls, then they go to Charlotte, they go to Boston, they go to Washington.
And none of those games will be easy because at this point of the season, everyone still has hope alive.
But with games like this, San Antonio can be discouraging some of that hope.
But when we talked to Greg Popovich before the game tonight, often a 3-second violation, excuse me. But We asked him what his biggest concern was other than health, which is always the huge issue. Just asked Stan Van Gundy of the Miami Heat about Shaq. But he talked about Popovich keeping the edge defensively, being sharp all the time, and focusing in on the details that make you a great defensive team each and every possession.
Now, they didn't start out that way tonight, but for 3 quarters, they have had an extreme edge defensively, and it's all added up to a 33% shooting performance for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs get 2 there from Hamilton.
Another 3-second violation.
2 times
Fabulous
down.
Fabricio is maybe having a little bit of trouble.
There's a look at game 2, the Timberwolves and the Sonics coming up next here on ESPN.
Dwayne Casey's return to Seattle, where he did such an outstanding job for many years in support of Nate McMillan and Bob Weiss, who now has the head job. I'm happy and proud for the NBA and Dwayne Casey that has worked out for that outstanding man.
Nick Van Exel right down the pipe. 2 threes for Van Exel tonight. You know, we've had a lot of coaching turnover from last year to this year.
10 new coaches.
Yeah, how is that going to affect the play around the league? With different systems being installed and so forth.
It'll generally take him time. I think the easiest transition will be in Detroit, where Flip Saunders comes in. I think what he did in bringing in Ron Harper was as brilliant an offseason move as any in the entire league. Plus the fact that Flip Saunders has told the guys, look, we got to open things up offensively. We got too much talent on this team to grind it out. Although they did get that last-second low.
Rip Hamilton, that looked familiar, didn't it?
But a low-scoring game, and when you get that much talent, I never really understood why the Detroit franchise likes to slow it down so much. Great block, Nazir Muhammad.
And the ball out of bounds and a timeout taken. 2:50 left in the 4th. And the San Antonio Spurs up big.
The defenders, the finishers,
the desire. This is why we watch.
Beautiful move by Allen. The move was great, but the English on the glass, extraordinary.
Ray Allen, certainly one of the reasons why we watch as the Sonics get ready to take on the Timberwolves. That one is coming up next after you're done, Jim.
And here in San Antonio, John, Tim Duncan will be sitting it out the rest of the way, but a 21-point, 10-rebound night for him. LeBron James, 20 points for the Cavs to lead them in scoring. Tony Parker.
He was outstanding. He set the pace early when they got the nice lead. They took him out. They fell apart a little bit. And he came back in. He was just on top of it. Tony Parker, who has really worked a lot with new assistant coach Chip England. Chip England, who came over from a couple years with the Denver Nuggets under Kiki Vandeweghe. Chip England, who worked in the early days with the guys at Duke where he went to college. Steve Kerr out in Los Angeles. Shooting coach, skill development coach.
You know, the Cavaliers may lose more than just the game tonight, as Danielle Marshall apparently has suffered a strained calf injury. And with the games piling up in the early part of the season, back-to-back at Memphis tomorrow, that could be very important. Finley connecting his first points tonight.
And that's why you never judge how you're going to play by how you warm up. Because out here tonight, warming up, I've never seen a player since the days of Larry Bird warm up better, more efficiently, or more productively than Michael Finley.
Finley in the opener on Tuesday had 16 points, and 11 of them came in the 4th quarter when the Spurs were winning it against Denver. That was a very competitive game. In fact, the Nuggets were up 5 early in the 4th. And San Antonio just roared past them to win by 11. 12 on the shot clock, Finley. Beno Udrih trying to split the defense, and he's tied up. Wilkes. Mike Wilkes ties him up. So the Cavs are going to drop to 1-1 on the young season. The Spurs go to 2-0 and look impressive in both of their wins.
think the most important thing for Cleveland right now is to not lose hope, not lose spirit. This is a great team they're playing against.
And because of what you pointed out, because Mike Brown is such a positive guy, that's not going to happen. He'll be a realist about it. He'll say, look, we came in here, we want to get to where San Antonio is someday. Now, we're not there yet, but at least you understand how far we've got to go.
And that's why on Wednesday, Commissioner Stern referred to
the San Antonio Spurs North. Yeah.
With Danny Ferry, Mike Brown.
Nazi Muhammad is fouled. Hamilton called for the personal.
And that's really the ultimate sort of respect that you pay to a franchise like San Antonio when you start hiring all their front office personnel.
Precisely. Timberwolves and Sonics coming up next from the Pacific Northwest. Game 2 of our Friday night coast-to-coast doubleheader. We're about a minute away from wrapping things up at the SBC Center. Nick Van Exel, Udrich, Van Exel with 5 on the shot clock. And the rebound to Oberto.
Such an intelligent player, Fabricio Oberto.
Dano Udrich finding Van Exel.
I love guys who bring offensive rebounds back out for a reset.
Because at this stage of the game, you want to kill clock anyway. A travel violation against Muhammad.
But really at any point in the game. I mean, so many guys think that just because they get the offensive rebound, they think it's their turn to jack it back up there. But you spend so much energy and enthusiasm and oxygen trying to get the ball, bring it back, and set it up for a shooter.
Luke Jackson. Oberto, a deflection. The Spurs will have to shoot the ball. But they have won tonight in convincing fashion. After it was a 5-point game at the half, they hit the Cavs with a 32-17 third, and that was it.
Happy to see Luke Jackson getting his shot at the NBA here. After having to sit out with the back injury last year, Luke Jackson, the off-season surgery that scraped off part of one of a bulging disc in the spine, and Luke telling us before the game that he just feels great. And really, when he woke up from the surgery, he could tell immediately that they got it right. And there is no better feeling on earth
than to know that surgery was right.
Because when you've had 32 of them like I've had.
Now, is that 16 on each ankle?
No.
How does that figure out?
That's 2 on the left hand, 5 on the left knee, and spread the other 25 between the feet and ankles.
Udrich divides the free throws. So the final trip of the game for the Cavs. Mike Wilkes with a handoff. Hamilton a throw down. 4.4 left. San Antonio will throw in. And they have won their first 2 games of the new season. The Cavs drop to 1-1. 102-76, that's your final. The Spurs big. T-Wolves Sonics next. For Bill Walton, our entire crew, Jim Durham, reminding you that this has been a presentation of ESPN. ESPN is the worldwide leader in sports. So with the Spurs with this win comfortably tucked away between games, we head for the studio at ESPN.